Team17. When you hear that name, there's probably one game series that comes to mind: Worms. It's almost synonymous. They've been developing Worms games for so long I almost forgot that they made other titles, like a racing game. Today we're gonna look at Stunt GP, a racing game centered around remote-controlled cars doing crazy stunts for crazy points, and see how Team17 fared with something other than worm warfare. I remember liking this game and enjoying it back in the day, and after playing it again now, I'm questioning my sanity. The hell was wrong with me? This game is pretty meh. It's mediocre at best. At first I decided to immediately jump into the action through the arcade mode, input my initials, choose one of the cars available, and boom, the race starts. 3, 2, 1, and you go. I do not remember this game being this slow, and that's one of the main problems I have now with it. The driving physics are not enjoyable at all. The cars accelerate too freaking slow, even when using turbo for that extra boost. This is extra noticeable since you're gonna experience that every time you respawn. Steering left and right isn't too responsive either, meaning it's hard to sometimes make sharper turns. You can slide, but it takes way too much out of your speed and momentum. It feels like you're driving a granny on an electric wheelchair. Cars of Stunt GP are separated into 3 categories. Wild Wheels, which are off-road type cars with high grip but slow stunts and speed. Aero Blasters are fast stunt types, which means they perform stunts much faster in the air, but they love to slide around the corners. And Speed Demons, which are supposedly the fastest. However, all these cars have one thing in common: they're all slow. The only cars I found to be fun to play with are Aero Blasters. Why? Because the game about freaking stunts. You're supposed to do cool flips and stuff during races, and all the other cars do tricks so slowly, it's painful to watch, as they sometimes fail to do a single flip. Stunts in the game are actually fairly simple: front, back and side flips, but they also provide an incentive to do them in 2 forms: aero miles and battery. You can also grind against the walls, because that's a trick for some reasons. Slide or do a barrel roll. Aero miles are basically stunt points. For each stunt you gain points and a multiplier represented by stars. Chain tricks one after another and you'll fill up the multiplier. However, it's not that easy, as most levels have ramps placed out way too far from each other to build up a good combo. I think the maximum multiplier I had was like 5 or 6, and this thing goes up to 10. That's impossible. Another advantage of doing tricks is that they recharge your battery. Your battery goes down constantly and you can burn faster through it by using the turbo boost. This makes doing tricks essential, as it gives you an edge over enemies who aren't the smartest. They just blindly burn through the batteries and then have to use the recharging station, which takes up a lot of time, or end up with an empty battery and completely get stuck on a part of a track. This translates over into your car selection choice, as the ones that can do tricks faster and better will have a battery edge over the other cars. However, it's easy to fall out of the track when jumping off ramps and doing tricks. And sometimes the physics just freak out at high speeds, or a seemingly good landing will bounce your car and flip you over. Either way, get used to the fact that your car is going to slow down a lot. From falling, sharp turns, restarting, it's so slow. There is no constant flow of speed, it's all ups and downs. Add to that some races in various modes can have up to 10 laps. Yeah, that's right. 10. It really adds to the sluggishness of a race. It's unnecessary padding, because you're not only going slow, you're going slow for 10 freaking laps. It's not as bad though, as the tracks are varied and have some amusing designs, so doing tricks will keep you occupied. They're all built from reusable, recolored elements though, so they tend to look a bit samey. The environments aren't too thrilling. Most of them are just a nice background with few of the imaginary sponsors being shown off. It's actually a shame that there's no level editor for this title, even though the tracks have, for the most part, standardized pieces. Graphically, the game looks good. The most detailed parts are the car models themselves. Even though they drive almost the same, they have distinct looks, and I appreciate that, as you're going to look at them 90% of the time playing. So I started off by rambling instantly into how bad the gameplay is, but what does the game offer? Well, there's arcade mode, in which you have to finish race on the first place in order to advance. What's interesting here is the fact that you have a map of races and you can select your own path through the arcade mode. The starting level is determined by the category of the car you choose at the beginning. After that, you can select whether to pursue tracks built for your type of car or mix it up. All tracks marked as squares on the map, once completed, will allow you to play them in the exhibition mode, which is basically a custom race. There's also time trial, which is, well, a time trial. If you played any racing game, you probably know how this goes. Stunt Challenge is a mode where you fight for the high score by scoring tricks. There's only one car, one arena, and the camera is absolutely horrible. It sorta hovers over the middle part of the map instead of following you behind, so you never know what's ahead of you. And of course, most of the time you'll land on your back, or the trick won't even register properly because reasons. And finally, the meat of the single player. The championship. This is by far the best way to experience the game. At the start you choose your sponsor. This will determine how much starting money you'll get and what cars you'll have access to. That's right, you can spend money in this mode to buy other cars and modify them with better or worse batteries, turbochargers, wheels, electronics and stuff. I'd really love this level of customization to be available in other modes. Upgrading your car in the championship modes also makes it faster, gives it better grip and a better responsiveness. Meaning that the problems I mentioned earlier are a lot less painful to bear. The better the place, the better the cash, the better the parts, so rinse and repeat until you're bored. So, does the game have any other redeeming qualities? Well, the music tracks are pretty rockin', as long as you keep the volume level above the sound effects, as the electric RC car engine buzzing gets a little annoying too. It also has local 4-player multiplayer mode, but no online play. I've gotta admit, I remembered having much more fun with the game, but I guess I grew and now I see all the flaws that either didn't bother me back then or I forgot them. I remember the game being received fairly well by the media in Poland, but I never actually looked up international reviews, and it turns out they weren't so great. And it's probably because it wasn't as good as one other RC racing title that came way before it. Stunt GP was released in 2001. 2 years earlier, in 1999, Revolt launched, setting the bar for RC-controlled racers. I could probably go on about Revolt for hours, but that might have to wait for its separate video. Stunt GP is childhood nostalgia, but unfortunately doesn't hold up too well 15 years later. It's not to say the game is bad, but it's very mediocre. Tons of flaws cripple its gameplay, and I'd have to be ignorant to let that slip. And if you enjoyed this video, why not like, subscribe and watch more videos. I do retro reviews, I do indie reviews, I do let's plays, I do first impressions and all that other stuff. You can also follow me on Twitter, like me on Facebook, and I'll see you in the next video. See ya!